The middle class has been left behind.
Here to break down the failures of the Obama economy, the one and only Donald Trump. How are you? Good to see you.
Where do you start?
By the way, I start with these ties. Every night I wear your ties.
At Macy's.
Yeah, no, they're...
Thank you.
And everyone asks for them, so I always tell them they're Trump ties, and I have to give them away.
I see a lot of the Fox guys are wearing them now. That's great.
Yeah, I know. They're stealing my idea. They steal my gas. They steal my ties.
Okay, that's good.
What do you make of that remark? What an admission after 6 years that so many people are hurting.
People are doing very badly. Families are doing very badly. If you look at family and family income, it's lower than it has been in 6, 7 years. That's a big stat, too. When you look at a family, their income is lower than it was 6 years ago. That's a terrible stat.
When I hear 50 million Americans are in poverty, you know, for all the talk that the rich don't care about the poor, how many people do you put to work every year?
Thousands and thousands of people.
Right.
I just started the old post office in Washington. We're going to employ hundreds in, construction, and then ultimately the hotel will open. And Doral, 800 acres right in the middle of Miami, and a tremendous, massive project. I mean, a lot of people. We put a lot of people to work.
So how do we get to a point where 50 million Americans are on food stamps, 50 million Americans in poverty, the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s?
And you have a false unemployment rate. Don't forget, when they say if you're looking for a job, false unemployment rate. Don't forget, when they say if you're looking for a job and then you give up, you're now considered employed. Actually, if you think of it, you're considered employed. So the number is a totally phony number. It's probably 18, 19, maybe even 20%, the real number.
You were a harsh critic, as I was, about President Obama. Did you anticipate this?
No.
Is he worse than what you thought he'd be?
I never thought it was going to be this bad. It's turned out to be a disaster. Whether you look at Ebola with the no quarantine people coming in, I mean, it is going to, and it's going to get worse. We sent 4,000 soldiers over to fight. And
4 hours of training.
4 hours,
Not even fully equipped.
Yeah.
You see them building the tents?
They never heard of they interviewed some of them. They never heard of the word 2 weeks before this happened.
It's crazy. I want to play for you Hillary Clinton. She says corporations and businesses don't create jobs. She said this at a campaign rally. It kind of sounds like Barack Obama saying, you didn't build that. Take a look.
Don't let anybody tell you that, it's corporations and businesses that create jobs. You know, that old theory, trickle-down economics. That has been tried. That has failed.
Don't let anyone tell you, that corporations and businesses create jobs. Who creates the jobs then?
Well, she's going over to the Elizabeth Warren side of things, and I don't know, maybe she needs that, maybe she doesn't. I know Hillary, I've never heard her speak that way. I've never seen this one from her. That's a pretty big statement.
Yeah, well, I think...
Very sad, by the way, very sad statement for the country. It's not true, and it's a very, very sad statement for the country.
What would you do if you flirted with the idea of running for president? If you were the president now, what would Donald Trump be doing to make the economy stronger?
Well, I'd do a lot of things, but I'd end Obamacare, and I'd come up with a much better plan, a better plan for the people that's a lot less expensive. Another thing very big, I'd take back jobs. You look at what's happening with China, you look at what's happening with, they're taking all of our jobs. You know, we talk about Apple. Where's Apple? I mean, it's all made in China and other places, but mostly in China. It's all made in China and other places, but mostly in China. The other one, people don't even realize, Mexico. Soon it's going to be our biggest import. We're going to get much of our stuff from Mexico, and yet we have Sergeant Tamarisi, who we can't even talk to.
Isn't that crazy?
No. One phone call from a competent president, I guarantee you he's out. One phone call. And yet he sits there literally rotting in a rough Mexican jail.
With PTSD.
With a whole lot of problems.
Yeah.
That's true.
And all he did was make a wrong turn. Who do you then like? Is there anyone that's inspiring you in the Republican Party that you think, okay, that guy might be the guy?
Too early to say. I mean, I've been hearing about Mitt Romney, and the problem is he blew it. Now, whether you like him or don't like him, I like him, but he blew it. He had that election won. 4 weeks to that election, Obama was doing horribly, and he blew it. So I don't like to
You're talking about the third debate in particular.
I'm not even talking about the debate, which he really blew. I mean, the second debate was bad. The third debate was atrocious.
The first debate was great.
And the first debate was great. I don't know what happened to him. But the bottom line, he had it won. It's like somebody in golf. You know, you stand over this. You have guys that can never sink that three-footer to win the match.
Right.
He failed.
So you don't want him to run with all this talk of him running?
I don't think he should. I mean, nothing against Mitt. I don't think he should run because he choked or whatever you want to say, but he blew it. And that was an election that was easier to win than running against Hillary.
But the electoral map is such, when you start out without California, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, you got to run the table. You got to get a purple state,
Sean, you're
Virginia.
right, but a lot of people,
Ohio, Florida.
In the last election, a lot of people, a lot of Republicans, people,
Stayed home.
they didn't vote.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back more with Donald Trump coming up right after the break. And then later, Congressman Paul Ryan is here to tell us what is the Republican plan to stop the president from implementing all-out amnesty through executive action after the elections. Also, stick around until the end of the show. I have an exclusive announcement regarding this program and President George W. Bush. That and more on this busy news night. Straight ahead. And more on this busy news night. Straight ahead. All right, welcome back to Hannity. We continue now with the man himself, Donald Trump. All right, so we talked about the economy. We talked about what you do. I was discussing with Glenn Beck. If I were president, it should never happen. You might run for president. You could be elected. Nice, independent guy that with common sense. I would first balance the budget. I'd cut 1 penny out of every dollar government spends every year for 6 years. You get to a balanced budget.
Good plan.
Good plan, right?
Simple.
People understand it.
Simple, and people don't talk about it. You talk about it,
No.
but people don't talk about it. But it is a good plan, and it's a simple plan.
How stupid are we that we don't secure our borders?
Well, number one, borders. Number two, the debt. You look at, we're up to 18 trillion right now. So
$100 trillion in unfunded liabilities.
Right, tremendous numbers in unfunded. And then you have the borders. And, you know, whether it's Ebola or the borders themselves, but people are just flocking in by the tens of thousands,
ISIS?
and we're doing nothing. ISIS is just a disaster.
I sat in a briefing with Governor Rick Perry, and the people giving the briefing said they're catching people from Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Between Ebola and ISIS and terrorism, you'd think we'd secure them.
There's no question about it. There's no question about it.
John Hofmeister used to be the CEO of Shell Oil.
Right.
He says we have more oil, natural gas, coal, especially with new technology, horizontal drilling and fracking, hydrofracking, that we would be energy independent for at least 200 years.
100%. That's right.
Why don't we do it?
Well, we don't do it because we have environmental laws that don't allow you. I have so many friends in the business, and they are just stymied at every level. And despite government, they're getting it.
Look at North Dakota.
But I will say this. I was the one that said, when we go to Iraq, you're going to leave, and the worst guy, worse than Saddam Hussein, worse than anybody, whoever the worst is and hates this country the most, that's going to be the new boss.
We should have taken the oil.
Well, we should have taken the oil. And I said it. And people would say, oh, you're talking about a sovereign nation. This is a sovereign nation. We should have taken. And you know who has the oil now?
We should have made them pay for their liberation and compensate every soldier of the 4,000 Americans that died.
At a minimum. And you know who has the oil now? ISIS. So it's a terrible situation.
Well, how would you deal with ISIS?
I would go very, very hard and very, very strong. And it looks to me like we're dealing with them in a very weak fashion. And at some point, something's going to have to happen. Now, I will say this. Iran, if you look at it, is a big enemy. We're doing all the fighting. We're doing all the bombing. You go to Syria. They want to attack Syria. We're stopping them from attacking. You know, I actually said, and at first it was in jest, and I said, you know, maybe that may let ISIS loose for a little while, let them knock off Syria, and after they knock off Syria, then you knock off ISIS. But when you see the beheadings and when you see the things that they're doing right in our face, they have no respect for our president. In our face, they have no respect for our president. They have no respect. When they do that, and they send it out for the world to see, they have no respect for us or certainly for our
Neither
president.
does Vladimir Putin.
No, he certainly doesn't.
Well, does the president deserve? Does he? For example, I don't think we won the war in Iraq. You and I were on different sides. We argued about it on radio a number of times. But
I was never a fan.
The surge worked.
Well,
we won the war.
It worked, but you know what are you going to do? Stay there forever? I mean,
no.
The surge worked in a limited way. The bottom line is when they had a fight, they gave billions of dollars worth of our equipment and they ran like a bunch of thieves. And that's not
But you know what?
war.
All we needed to do is keep intelligent forces on the ground. We would have seen ISIS be on the move. We would have been able to strike early before they got Ramallah and Fallujah and the Sinjar Mountains and Mosul, and now they're outside of Baghdad. We could have stopped it ahead of time.
John, keep the oil. ISIS is now funding themselves with the oil. We should have kept the oil.
Yeah.
We should have never left. We could go back and get it right now, but that's what should have happened.
Let me go back to who inspires you in the political arena today.
Well, you don't have too many people. I mean, you know, you go back to the great. Somebody gave me a beautiful picture the other day of Ronald Reagan, and you looked and you said, "This is our president." He had it. He was making a speech, beautiful framed picture, and I thought he was terrific. I knew him a little bit. I was young. He was older, but he was terrific. And I don't see that. Do you see that on the horizon?
I'm looking.
Well, look hard.
I'm looking real. Are you going to get in the arena ever?
Well, we're going to see what happens. I mean, I'm
You're going to start this again? You're going to flirt again? You're not. You're out.
No, I didn't say that. I said I'm not going to start that again. Don't forget, I never did start it. They put me in polls, and I do very well in polls. So every time I do well in polls, they think I'm running. I will say this. The country's in serious trouble. I would do a good job. You want to know the truth? I would do a good job. We'll see what happens.
You'd run America like a business.
I would run it properly, and I'd also run it with heart. A lot of people don't understand that. I would run it with heart.
That would make a big difference. I'd like to see a little more passion out of Obama. He's more passionate about his golf game and basketball than he is about...
Well, he's played over 200 rounds of golf. That's a lot of golf.
I haven't played 200 rounds in my life. Have you?
You have touring professionals haven't played that much.
No, it's unreal. Mr. Trump, good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for my ties, by the way.
Aren't they great?
When do I get a discount?
Anytime you want.
All right. And coming up, President Obama and his liberal spin machine. They flew to Wisconsin today, where the left is now trying their hardest to unseat the governor, Scott Walker. He's up for re-election. Coming up next, Congressman Paul Ryan. He'll react to that. And then later, my exclusive announcement that involves the 43rd President of the United States. Straight ahead.